Hey there, welcome. I'm Damien and I'm just another stubby artist on the internet. So this is the 7th entry of my character design journal, and in my last video, aka a long time ago, I completed the design for both versions of a character named Siguro. That was a character that was designed with the intention of contrasting the previous one I did in this journal, Brunhilde, and therefore a lot of the decision making was derived from the other character. And for both of them, I really had a more or less clear idea of what I wanted to do in mind, and specific references that I wanted to look at since they were both based on characters from Viking mythology. Let's throw all that out the window, because I have no idea where I want to go with this. Of course that's a lie, but that's only because I'm recording this video after I have already done it. But at the time I was actually doing this, I really had no idea what I wanted to do with this. I had a very vague idea of what role I wanted this character to play in the narrative that I had developed for this project, but it was a very vague thought at the moment, and even now, in fact, I'm still not 100% sure about it. So the designs that you will see at the end of the video are still placeholders. They might change at some point in the future. The only concept I knew I wanted this character to convey at the start of my design process was martial arts. So the first thing I did before starting anything was I went on Pinterest, typed martial arts, and looked at the poses in search of inspiration. Once I felt inspired enough, I started putting down some poses I could build some characters from later. The first 3 poses I did were sort of kung fu looking, since it's probably the most recognizable martial arts from movies and stuff, and it's what most of the images I looked at tended to show, so that might have influenced some of my design choices later. Now for the 4th pose, I don't know what that is. I don't think it comes from any martial arts. I just pulled it out of somewhere. It just looks like something someone from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure will do. And leave aside the believability and anatomical accuracy of these poses. I feel like I need to clarify this. They're for the sole purpose of getting some ideas done really quickly. And I am aware there are problems, they don't really matter at this stage. So moving on to the first concept, I thought of a young martial artist girl with clothes inspired by traditional Chinese clothing and classic Chinese buns for her style. You know, like a million other characters. And these are just some of the ones I could think from the top of my head. And I only realized how similar the color palette is to Tenten from Naruto when I looked back at it some days later. The second one was inspired by Shaolin monks, and there's very little more to it, but a bald man in an orange suit is kinda boring from a character design point of view, and being honest, Krillin already exists. So I added some extra details just to make the design a bit easier. There was no deeper thought in this one character. For the next one, I took inspiration from one of the most recognizable martial artists in pop culture, media in general, Bruce Lee, obviously. And I wanted to portray the same energy he gives off in this picture specifically. I mean, look at that, look at the confidence of this man in this picture. And I also looked at this character from League of Legends, I think it's called Lee Sin, although I believe he may have been heavily inspired by Bruce Lee himself, so I'm taking inspiration from Bruce Lee twice, in a way. And I added a golden embroidery with an Asian dragon pattern on his clothes, just to make the design have more things going on. And finally, for the crazy pose, I tried to go a bit more Japanese in terms of clothing, but keep it somewhat ambiguous. Whether I got that right or not is up to debate, to be honest, so tell me what you think in the comments. And I also tried to do a more mature woman than the first concept from before, but still in the peak of her physical form. I wanted to go for a sort of effortlessly elegant type of character. And please just ignore the energy ball, please. So before I tell you which character I ended up choosing, if you want, let me know in the comments which one would you have chosen and why. Maybe you make a good point and I end up changing my opinion. right? I'm also going to leave the whole time-lapse of the final drawing behind because it makes these videos unnecessarily long, and we're experimenting with design rather than drawing techniques here. So let's just straight up have a look at the final drawing. So yeah, I chose Bruce Lee, and as opposed to the previous characters where I changed some things from the first draft to the final drawing, I practically kept the design intact on this one, with the exception of just higher contrast and changing a bit the patterns on his jacket. However, the first draft was very rough, so something as small as that can barely be called a change at all. Although I did change the really long dragon wrapping around both of his arms for a shorter one on one of his arms and a tiger on the other side. And that will be everything, but as you can probably tell by the length of the red bar, there's still a bit of video left. So I came up with a possible role for this character to fulfill in my story, and I proceeded to do a polished illustration of her. And here it is. I'm going to be completely honest, looking at it now, I don't think I designed her that well. There isn't really anything in her design that can tell me absolutely anything about her, and nothing really particularly stands out. So this is an example of a character design that isn't bad, because there's nothing strikingly awful or unpleasant to look at, but it's not a good design either, because the same reasons. So I'm definitely redesigning her in the near future. Also, these two characters are yet unnamed, so feel free to suggest any ideas for the names and why, of course. And now that is the end of the video. If you like what I do, give it a like, subscribe, and all the things that make the algorithm happy. Make sure to check my other social media in the description below, and I'm always open to suggestions and constructive criticism, so let me know what you think in the comments. And as always, stay creative, keep drawing. See you next time.